What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back with another video, and today we're going to be doing something different here on the channel. I thought it'd be cool to take a look at the best players of all time in the NHL from Sweden. So I've got some numbers here. I'm going to go by all-time points. So we're going to go through the top 10. I thought it'd really be cool. I've always loved Team Sweden when it came to hockey. And I thought that it'd be really cool to go through some of these numbers, because I know a lot of people don't like to go through and do research for all-time points. They like, you know, the newer players, and sometimes people forget the people who played before them. And some of these guys on this list are actually still playing. They've got quite a bit of points, but I thought it'd be cool to go back and look at some of the best players of all time from different countries, different places all over the world. So after Sweden, you guys let me know, what do you want to see next? But I thought it'd be cool to start with Sweden. Been fascinated with their hockey over time. And one of my favorite players, and some of my favorite players of all time, are from Sweden. So Alvin, hopefully you like this video. I know, well, I hope you're watching this, but it's your people here. These are your guys. So again, this is all-time points, top 10 best NHL players of all time from Sweden. I don't think you can really disagree, because the points are fact, and these are the top 10 best of all time. So the first thing I want to say is there's a lot of honorable mentions here, guys that I know of course. Some of them, you know, we've got Boris Salming, one of the best Leafs of all time, retired number 21 by the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. Michael Nylander, I believe is the father of William Nylander, who is currently one of my favorite players, and definitely that's cool to see him on this list. Kent Nielsen's on here, just a lot of really good names, and Nicholas Backstrom was actually number 11, and we all know who he is on the Washington Capitals. So some great names that aren't in the top 10, but Backstrom probably next year easily will be in the top 10 because of the points are not too far apart. So that's pretty cool as well. But let's get right into it. So Tom Steen is number 10, the father of Alexander Steen, who is also on this list at some point. Not in the top 10, but still on the list of some of the best. He played 950 career NHL games, 264 goals, 553 points. 553 assists for 817 points, and I believe he played his entire career with the Winnipeg Jets. So as you can see, he did score quite a few goals, but he was very good at dishing out the puck. He did take quite a few penalties, 753 minutes of penalties, and he was a career minus 69. He's the only minus player on this list, but again, looking at his points, I guess that doesn't really matter as much, because he's one of the best Swedish-born hockey players of all time. Power play goals, he had 73 of them, so he was good on the power play as well. Shorthanded goals, he had 13, and he actually had quite a few game winners at 29 game-winning goals. So he was clutch when his team needed him to get some goals. He did. But just going back to the fact that he's obviously passed the torch down to his son, and Alexander Steen has been one of the better hockey players in the NHL for, you know, quite some time. Maybe not in like the top tier of the NHL, but he's definitely a very good hockey player who has definitely put up a ton of points in his NHL career, and it would not surprise me if he kept moving up this list as his career goes on, of course. At number 9 is Tomas Sandstrom, a Stanley Cup champion. I believe Tom Steen never won a Stanley Cup. It could be incorrect, but I don't believe he did. Tomas Sandstrom did win a Stanley Cup with the Detroit Red Wings. I believe he only had one. But in 983 games, he had 394 goals and 462 assists for 856 points. So again, a guy that put up quite a few points. Again, more assists than goals, so guys that are able to dish out the puck and score goals just as much. He had over 1,100 penalty minutes, so he's seen the penalty box quite a lot. He was a career +8, so that's good. He was obviously a plus player. He was on the power play quite a lot. He had 119 power play goals. So again, a guy that you throw out there to make sure you are getting a goal. He had 10 shorthanded goals, so he played a little bit of both. And he actually had 44 game-winning goals. So again, another guy who was clutch for his team. And I believe Sandstrom played for quite a few teams. I want to say he played for the Rangers, the Penguins, the Ducks, and the Red Wings. I could be missing another team, but again, all these guys played for Team Sweden at some point. How could they not? How great they were. But yeah, he played for quite a few teams. I believe he ended his career with the Ducks when they were the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, or the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. So that's pretty cool, actually. At number 8 is a guy that most of us should know. This is a guy that was still around playing when I was growing up, and that's Markus Nslund. Again, an amazing hockey player. Just a quick side note, I guess, I used to love playing as him in the NHL video games. I remember he was on the cover of one of the games. I want to say it was like 04, 05. I could be wrong. Arcade Regiment will know if he watches this, but even Audie might know this as well. But in over 1,100 games, he played 1,117 games. He had 395 goals and 474 assists for 869 points. So again, a guy that was able to dish out the puck and score goals just as much. Again, very, very solid player for the Canucks. He never won a Stanley Cup, unfortunately. 736 penalty minutes, not too bad. That's quite a bit, though. He was a career +6, so another plus player, which is good. 126 power play goals. So Nslund definitely seen the power play quite a bit. He was one of the better players in Canucks history, so of course you want him on the ice when you need it. And he had 6 shorthanded goals, not a big shorthanded player, I guess, and 53 game-winning goals, which does not surprise me because of the fact that he was so good. Again, I got to see him play quite a bit, and I obviously am impressed by him. If you haven't seen him play, definitely missed out, because he is he was a fantastic hockey player. I'm sure he could still lace him up, but definitely was a fantastic hockey player. At number 7 is Peter Forsberg, a Stanley Cup champion, a guy whose career should have went on longer, but injuries definitely took a toll on him. Only played 708 games, 249 goals, but 636 assists. So this guy dished the puck out. He was a machine when it come to getting assists for 885 points. If his career kept going, he could have easily been towards the top 2, maybe even the number 1 spot, because he just put up points. Every time he was in the lineup, he just continually put up points. Again, I got to see a little bit of Peter Forsberg, and if you're not impressed by the way he played, you need to go back and watch more highlights, because Peter Forsberg is something to be amazed by. His game, his class, one of the better players in NHL history for sure. More points than games played. I think there's only 2 people on this entire list that had that. Honestly, if he would have kept going, there's no way. I don't think he could have been left out of the top 3, if not the best spot. 690 penalty minutes, which is quite a bit. 238. He was a plus 238. Just let that sink in. He was a plus 238. The guy was on the ice making sure that his team was winning at all times. Fantastic. 71 power play goals, so again, on the ice when they needed him. And when he was with Colorado, of course, there's obviously a lot of great players there, so getting on the power play is definitely good when you played for that team. 16 shorthanded goals, again, showing that he was versatile, he could play both sides, and 43 game-winning goals. So again, a guy that was very clutch, a very talented hockey player. At number 6 on this list is Henrik Sedin for the Detroit Red Wings, Stanley Cup champion. Again, one of the players I got to see play quite a bit. An amazing talent. He played 1,082 games, 337 goals, 623 assists. So he dished out the puck quite a bit, scored a lot, but he doubled that in assists. He was able to get his teammates involved at all times. And when you've got a guy like that, your teammates are happy because you're getting a lot of points, because you're scoring a lot of goals, because he's going to get you that puck. Yeah, so 960 points, incredible. 401 penalty minutes, whatever, a plus 160. So again, another plus player, a guy that was making sure he was on the ice, making sure his team was winning. He had 100 power play goals, so again, on the power play quite a bit, scoring goals when they needed them most. 9 shorthanded goals, but 64 game winners. So Zetterberg was very clutch, and as a Leaf fan, as whenever he had the puck, I'm kind of doing one of these because I don't want him to score. And quite frankly, he would either score, dish the puck, and make a good play, regardless of if it went in or not. He was still very dangerous on the ice, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me. At number 5 is Daniel Sedin, of course, a guy who just one of the 2 guys, of course, that announced his retirement. The Sedin twins are just fantastic, and of course Daniel here is first up on the list with 1,306 games played, a little bit less than Henrik. 393 goals, 648 assists. So he scored a lot, but he dished out the puck a lot, and again, not surprising, considering his brother did the same thing. So they were dishing it to each other quite a bit, but also to their third line mate and, of course, their defenseman. For 1,041 points, a lot of points. 546 penalty minutes. That, again, that number doesn't really do much for how good they were, but I mean, I'm just saying it because it's here. A plus 147, so there was years where the Canucks were really good and there was years where they were pretty bad. So being able to stay at that plus, fantastic. If that team was better for a couple more years, that number would be way better, of course. 138 power play goals, a guy you wanted on the ice when the other team was shorthanded. He didn't have any shorthanded goals in his entire career. That's a funny stat, but he just didn't kill penalties as much. And 86 game-winning goals. Clutch. The definition of clutch. He's second for game-winning goals on this entire list. Well, in the top 10 at least, and that number, again, does not surprise me. The Canucks always relied on the Sedins to get stuff done, and they did. And that leads me to number 4 on the list. Henrik Sedin, he played 1,330 games, so obviously a lot more, or not a lot more, but more than his brother. 240 goals, 830 assists. 830. He almost had 1,000 assists. So he had 1,070 points. So Henrik would fill the score sheet with assists. That number is out of this world amazing. Being able to get your teammates and even your brother involved in the game as much as Henrik did. There's a reason why the Canucks were so good for so long, because these guys were just putting up points and they weren't selfish to just pass between each other. They were giving the puck up to everybody on their team, and that's why he had so many assists. I mean, that's just ridiculous. 680 penalty minutes, a plus 165. Again, a very good productive player. 61 power play goals, so not as much as his brother, but he also had 7 shorthanded goals, so 7 more than his brother had, so he killed more penalties and scored more shorthanded, and he had 38 game-winning goals. So again, he was more of the guy that set those goals up. So having 38 is still unbelievable, but he set up more of those game-winning goals, probably a lot of them with his brother. And number 3 is probably the most impressive guy on this list, in my opinion. He's a defenseman, a Stanley Cup champion, Nicklas Lindstrom from the Detroit Red Wings, of course. This is a guy that every time I watched him, I was in awe. It's one of those guys where, even though I'm a Leaf fan, and I'm sure a lot of other fans of other teams can say, it's like, you can't hate this guy. He was all class, a fantastic captain, an amazing player, one of the best defensemen of all time. Over 1,500 games played, 1,564 games played, 264 goals, and 878 assists. Again, just out of this world numbers, and especially for a defenseman to put up over 1,100 points, 1,142 points for Nicklas Lindstrom. One of the most productive players of all time, and he was a defenseman. So he was playing the defensive end of the game, but also putting up so many points. And obviously those Red Wings the Red Wings were really good for quite a bit. He was right there as the guy that all the production came from. He was leading the charge, bringing the puck in, playing a good defensive and offensive game. Red Wings fans probably have the most respect for this guy. He's unbelievable, and I do as well. I really, really like Nicklas Lindstrom. 514 penalty minutes, not bad for a defenseman. Plus 450. A plus 450 as a defenseman. I don't have to say anything else. Unreal. 132 power play goals, so again, on the ice when they needed him most. 10 shorthanded goals, which is just ridiculous. In my opinion, that's awesome for him, especially since he's a defenseman. And 35 game-winning goals. Like, how is Lindstrom not a top 3 defenseman all time? Top 5? Like, I don't care if anybody takes offense to that. I think he's got to be up there. A lot of people could argue he's the best. I know Ray Bork. A lot of people are going to argue Bobby Orr, but Lindstrom's got to be up there. He's got to be in the conversation. These numbers are so impressive, unbelievable. At number 2, a guy that I've seen quite a lot, a guy who should have won a Stanley Cup and didn't, Daniel Alfredsson. Oh man, as a Leaf fan, again, this is a guy I've seen quite a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. I know there's been some controversial stuff with him versus the Leafs. I know Leaf fans, but guess what? One of the best players of all time, Swedish history, amazing. Over 1,200 games played, 1,246 games, 444 goals, 713 assists. Those are just powerful numbers. those numbers are out of this world. Scored a lot of goals, got a ton of assists, 1,157 points, just amazing. He had 510 penalty minutes, and he was a plus 155, so a plus player. Was on the ice, his team was scoring, making sure that his team was winning all the time. Had 135 power play goals, so a guy who was on the power play, making sure his team was capitalizing when they had when the other team was a man short. And he had 25 shorthanded goals and 73 game-winning goals. So I believe, what is that? Third on this list for game-winning goals for the top 10. He was really good when they needed him to. And again, being a Leaf fan, I've seen this quite a bit. Him scoring on the Leafs, always something that you don't want to see. But when you look back at it, he was one of the better players in my generation for sure. And it goes to number 1. My favorite forward of all time, one of my favorite players, just regardless of sport, one of my favorite athletes ever. This guy was all class, never won a Stanley Cup, and he should have. I wasn't even mad when he went to Vancouver. The captain of this team forever, for me, the best Leaf of all time, Mats Sundin. And I don't, again, a lot of people are going to disagree that he might not be the best Leaf of all time. I don't care. I think he is. This guy was more than just a guy who was on the ice doing stuff. Off the ice, he was a very charitable person, all class, very humble, the best captain that I've ever seen. And again, as a Leaf fan, I've seen more Leaf games, so this is just an opinion. It's not fact. I love the guy, and I'm not surprised that he's at number 1. More points than games played. He was always putting up points. Mats Sundin, if he didn't put up a point, people were scratching their heads. Something's got to be wrong. He's going to be sick. He's injured. He was always putting up points. 1,346 games played, 564 goals, 785 assists for 1,349 points. So he always was putting up points, always scoring, always dishing out the puck. Had over 1,000 penalty minutes. Yeah, not very good, but again, he was in the box quite a bit. Plus 73. He was on a Leaf team that was very good for quite a bit, but he was also on a Leaf team that was pretty bad for a bit. And, I mean, keeping it a plus is very good for him. 160 power play goals. Sundin was all over the ice. He always was scoring goals. So he definitely, that number does not shock me at all. He was on the ice pretty much every power play. 31 shorthanded goals. Again, he could be on the ice when they were shorthanded, making sure that he was still engaging in offensive play regardless of what the situation was. And 96 game-winning goals. So out of the top 10, he was number 1 for game-winning goals. The Leafs always relied on him. Every single time they needed something, he would go in and score. So again, Mats Sundin is number 1 on this list. This video is a lot longer than I thought it'd be, but let me know what you guys think about this video. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. Love to have more hockey conversations with you. Join the squad. I really love Team Sweden when it comes to the NHL and international play. So doing Sweden first was something I wanted to do, and I'm sure Alvin would really like that as well. But I really, really appreciate the guys that are on this list and the guys that are obviously not in the top 10. There's quite a few. I listed a couple that are in this list that were just fantastic hockey players. I really got to get a Sweden jersey. I really got to get a Team Sweden jersey. I'm from Canada, but, Sundin and, Nslund, the Sedin twins, Lindstrom. There's just so many guys that I just feel like I got to wear a Team Sweden jersey eventually. So maybe I'll have to buy one of those. But again, hopefully you like this video. I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Peace.